Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Coast to Coast Traders Podcast. I'm Robbie.
And I'm Flexing Joe. What's up, man?
Oh, what's up, Joe? I'm dude. How are you, man? How are you doing this weekend?
I'm doing good this weekend. I actually had today off. I took my daughter out to brunch. You know, her birthday's coming up, so we have this tradition for like the last I don't know, maybe like 9 or 10 years now. When it's their birthday, or their birthday's coming up, we try to do it close to their birthday. I just go out for breakfast with them, just one on one. So I did it last month with my youngest daughter, and now this month with my oldest daughter, who's going to be 19. Bro, it's crazy.
Wow,
Yeah, I feel
that's
old.
cool, man.
I feel old as hell. Feel old
When
as
did she
hell.
fly in the coop?
I don't know. I mean, she's
Did she go
still
fly the coop?
not.
College or?
She's still doing college. She's still commuting to school and stuff. So, but she's gonna graduate early. She's actually because she graduated high school last year. She's gonna graduate. We were just talking about it at breakfast or brunch or whatever you want to call it. There were mimosas involved, so it was good. But she's gonna graduate December of 26. So that's actually a full year and a half early.
Nice, that's
Yep.
cool. Overachiever.
Yep.
Love to see it.
Hell yeah. Yep. So then she'll
That's great.
probably fly in the coop a little bit after that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool, man. Good to hear
Yeah.
that.
How's your weekend?
Weekend's good. Can't complain. It's been a calm week, just chilling, relaxing. I think last October I told you that I tried to take Ashley out to like a kind of a surprise, just like impromptu date, and
Yeah.
then the place I went to was like it was reserved randomly by like some Boy or Girl Scouts possible thing,
Yeah.
and so we finally went back out, did just went to the boardwalk and did some pool and walking around loitering and stuff to finally like go back to that place. So it was just kind of a nice weekend, just chilling out and hanging,
Nice.
and enjoying the quality time, of course. So
Nice. Awesome.
very, very, very grateful for that.
Oh yeah.
Um, you and I, we did some things this week, didn't we?
Yeah, we did, bro. We had some ups and downs this week. We had some ups and downs.
Yeah.
Yeah. You go first.
Yeah.
Tell us about your week first.
All right. Well, so I've just been thinking like, if I was like listening to the podcast, like trying to think out like from just a viewer's or listener's perspective, like thinking to myself, Robbie's really talking a lot about like how awful he's doing recently, and and like this guy's always chasing or always doing this and that, and so like you know the fact is like yeah, I was doing I was just having a really bad go at the market, and
Mm.
so like I aired my dirty laundry on the podcast, and in a way it helped me to be accountable, because this week, man, like last week I was saying I'm chasing this, I'm chasing that, my setups aren't there, and then this week, dude, nailing some entries with some great executions, and like
Oh yeah.
we both had some great days, and just like even if like like so we could just be on this podcast and only talk about the great things,
Hmm.
and that would be an unrealistic expectation for anybody that is new to the market.
Well, it would just be just like
And
being on X, right? Everybody's a millionaire trader on X.
yeah, exactly. And like you can learn from a fool, like at the very least you can learn what not to do.
For
Right?
sure. For
So
sure.
like if that was like the only takeaway that somebody got, if just from listening to this episodes, like, oh, this Robbie guy's always talking about chasing, well, maybe I won't chase. Like, hey, that's great. But
Yeah.
like I can at least use that to hold myself accountable, and to work on improving my C game, which is something that I did improve upon this week.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah.
Yep. 100%, dude. 100%. Yeah, but it's good then. That's why we keep it real, right? We keep it real. So
Absolutely.
let's look at a couple of your trades, man, because this is like, I don't want to jump ahead of the second trade, but the second hit trade was like such a sniper entry. So what were your trades here? I got the 2 arrows marked out for your entries. Talk us through your thought process for them, and what you were looking
The,
at.
the thought process was like I was experiencing so much FOMO from the bell, man, because like in the pre-market we were very bearish,
Mhm.
and like everything was, we're under VWAP, we're under EMAs, and we have a little bit of a of a rally on the open, or it might have been right. Um, oh
Yeah,
yeah, it was
just a
just
tiny
right on
bit.
the bell, just a little bit of a bump, but still well under VWAP, and then it full sends, right?
Yep.
So I am like very much interested
Ooh.
in joining the trend short, but I need to like sometimes my strategy will be the first opposing color candle and then join the wicks of that candle, but like we were just way too extended from the EMAs.
Okay. Yep.
So I was as patient as I possibly could be, and when that second candle closed green, pretty much on the EMAs, I set an ask or a limit order, and I got that fill right there, almost top ticking it. And then per my usual strategy, I got a 15-point bracket, and that filled pretty darn near instantly.
Yeah, dude.
And
This because this candle, like, because that's your entry, I marked that out, right? So,
mhm.
this one candle, like from your entry, that's a 40-point drop on the candle, right? In that 1 minute.
Yeah, and that was another like can I hold for longer? And I really did feel like I could have, but another thing I've been complaining about is my inconsistent profit taking too, right?
Right.
So I have to honor my rule about taking 15 points off the first. And so that's what I did. So it was just a quick in and out. That trade filled very fast.
Yep.
So I'm waiting for the next opportunity. I could have got in again at the same entry, the next candle, or close enough anyway,
Mm-hmm.
similar risk anyway. But for whatever reason, I didn't, and we kept selling off. But about 10 minutes later, I have that little that supply zone drawn off those wicks, that little box that you got there for me,
Yep.
and so we have a really strong close underneath, and so here we are pulling back into it at the top of the zone with EMA confluence, right? And I'm thinking to myself, hey, this is about as good of a breaking base as you can get, textbook wise, anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a limit order up there, practically top ticked it again, and I was really hoping for a new low of day at that point. So I was trailing this one, basically over 20 points. I had started to trail my stop loss to about 15 points in profit, and I think about at the low it was close to 30 points if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it looks like it hit about
But
34-ish from
yeah,
your
so
entry.
maybe I could have trailed a little higher, but I do also want to allow the trade to breathe a little bit too, because especially if we're going to be breaking a new low,
Mm-hmm.
that would have been a pretty monster trade too. But like that didn't happen, and that's fine. But just it just goes to show, like you know we all know what our problems are. If we're not at least publicly uh, telling our problems to people, like we know what they are for sure.
For sure.
And for
Yeah.
me, chasing has been a huge problem. And it's like, dude, I know how to trade. I know how to set limit orders. I know how to scale and trail and all that stuff. So just freaking get your head in the game and execute.
Right.
And that's what I freaking did.
Awesome, man. No,
So
it's really good. Really good. I just want to like go to like looking at this chart, go to like a 5 minute.
mhm.
One thing that stood out there on the 5 minute, like, because I was looking at, the candles, the 1 minute candles, like you went short on the wick of the 5 minute here, and some people actually use a 5 minute orb, right? And
Yeah.
in this case, by the time it gets back up here, the top of the 5 minute candle here, like the upper wick, is the same as the upper wick of like the 30 minute orb, right? So it'd be the
Mhm.
same, but this
Yeah.
was definitely a nice little scalp, and it could have, and in some situations does, just fade off. And
Right.
I like the trail stop idea, honestly, man. You were a solid base hit here. You recognized that there was a potential for a little bit more here, and you still ended up with another solid base hit plus some, right? So really
Yeah,
good.
absolutely. And so again, if I'm complaining about not taking consistent profit, those are two very consistent trades, like
Y-
all around. And
Yeah. Yep.
limit order, respecting my risk,
Yep.
executing properly, taking profit,
Oh yeah.
all of the everything that we should be taking our boxes off when we're talking about doing our job in the market.
Yep, for sure. And then you talked about what your problem was last week. You've talked about it, aired it out, and then responded appropriately. So, way to go. And then going back to that 1 minute chart, dude, you said you'll strive to take the entry on the first opposing um, color candle. Why
hmm
is that? Can you talk us through that? Why do you look for
Um,
that?
It just
That's
like it just
fine.
depends on how big the move is. Like if we break a certain pivot, it's one of those things where I don't want to get in trouble with myself because there is there's maybe an element of FOMO in that sort of idea,
Mm-hmm.
but like you're aware of a 3 bar play situation, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how many times have we seen a similar situation where it's the first opposing color candle and then boom, it makes a new high or a new low, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's a similar sentiment, but in this case, like if we're just looking left, the pivots were like really far away from current price action.
Mm-hmm.
So like if the first opposing color candle was closer to a recent pivot, then that would probably lend me to take the first opposing color candle, like if there was wicks, and then trade alongside the
Mm-hmm.
original trend. But because we were so far away from any pivot and so far away from EMAs, that's why I was really trying to control myself from being too eager and waiting for what I thought was confirmation.
Yeah, for sure. And those like first one or two opposing color candles are usually some initial bell traders taking profit, right? So,
Hmm.
I'm sure if I think I gotta, let me see, I got to intraday. I'll have to do this to get the volume on there real quick. But if we look at what was the volume on the pullback, so the volume was lower on the pullback on the two green candles. The volume was lowering, pushes into
Hmm.
that 9 EMA there, and then you take it, and and the volume started to really kind of die off, and then it peaked here. But yeah, I was just looking at it, just wanted to see if it was like a lower volume pullback. Not really. It was starting to
Right.
peter off, but that's usually the initial profit taking, and then more people step in. So it's pretty solid, dude. It's both pretty damn good entries.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Thank you very
Yeah.
much. I appreciate it. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, I've done it plenty of times. Like, why can't I just do it more often? And so, yeah, that was the name of the game. Is just don't chase this week, Robbie.
Yeah, for sure. Really good opportunities, man. And then how'd the week shake out for you overall?
It was a green week, so last week was green too. I think, but just barely. And but
Mm-hmm.
this week was green, so like it was just a good comeback all around because I last week it was on the red streak,
Mm-hmm.
and I kind of brought it back and just overall working on making sure that I'm being consistent. So like it wasn't like I had a record day on Wednesday, but it wasn't like a record week, which is fine. But it was just the most important thing for me was just focusing on the process, not the
Yep.
profit.
Yep, for sure. Same here,
Yeah.
man. Same here. Yep. Nice, dude.
Yeah.
That's
So you had
awesome.
a record week too. So do you want to talk about any of your trades?
Well, I'll talk about like this one. I did take these QQQ puts, which contributed to that record week. All right. So like the thought process was like really simple, right? So if we go to the daily chart, I've been looking at, this most recent leg in price action. So we had this huge move down. We kind of like glided up here and we made this leg
Hmm.
down and we made a new low. And so I just threw a fib and I was like, well, roughly, and I got this little arrow in the way. I'll move it out of the way for a second. But like roughly, where's the golden zone? What are you looking at? And then I realized the golden zone was right between the 9 and the 20. It was,
Hmm.
so I was like, okay, well, that's a good spot for it. And then I noticed earlier in the day that we didn't come back up to like where this candle opened. And so this was the 28th. And so I'll go back to like a 10-minute chart. And this is what, because I was kind of hemming and hawing about this trade and whether or not to even take these puts, which because I was so indecisive is part of the reason why I didn't take like that many. I only took a couple, right? So because I
Hmm.
was basically sizing it for like I knew Trump was going to talk, and my thought process was like Trump's going to talk about tariffs. I feel like there's almost no way this is going to be a good talk, and
Yeah.
you know he's going to talk about like this whole liberation day and all that stuff. Is no way it's going to be good for the market. There's no way it's going to. I just felt like there was no way, but
Yeah.
you can't really take trades solely off feelings. So I was like, well, there's that feeling, but there's also like the technicals of it. And when we made this push up earlier in the day, we couldn't get over the opening print here on the 28th, right? Which is pretty much this yellow line, right? So I was like, okay, well, that's a good sign because sellers were obviously still there, and they pushed, like, I'll block out the after hours. So they pushed things down like considerably, went back down to VWAP, we consolidated in VWAP, and then we started like curling up here. And then literally entered these puts like at the end of the day. I was like, all right, I'm going to do it. And worst case scenario, I'm probably going to lose like 75% of them on them, right? Yeah. And then you and I think we were on voice actually.
We were on voice together, yeah.
Yeah. And then so like I'm watching these because the QQQ puts you can trade like until 15 minutes after the bell, right? So I'm watching these and I'm like, oh damn. Like, and at one point I was up like almost 100 a con, and I was like, wow, like these things are moving quick, you know?
You were almost thinking of taking one off too, I remember.
Yeah, I was, dude. And then all of a sudden it was like, and I was just like, well, there it is. He said something the market wasn't ready for. The market likes it. I'm probably losing 75% of these on these, and I was okay with it because I was just had a couple. I was okay with it. Totally fine. Like there was no emotions. Like I was just kind of like, wow, like because that's a move, right? I mean, it wicked down to 475. Dude, this is an $8 move. And then dude, and I remember like watching this. I feel like I got to go down on like to like the 2 minute or the 1 minute chart because
because when we were on video together, I was watching it on the 1 minute for sure, and I was like, wow, dude, you're so cooked.
Yeah.
And like, so like you were fine. You accepted the risk, but like I was just thinking, damn, poor Joe's cooked here on this big move up.
Yeah.
And then shortly after, like, you know, we get off call and I go for a walk and I come back to check my messages and you're like, bro,
yeah,
look at this.
Yeah, dude, I swear, like we got off of voice probably like around like literally the chart looked something like this. Like it was in this general area and I was like, oh, like it's moving up. It came back down to the EMAs. It's probably gonna hold this, etc. And I saw this like nasty wick down. I'm like, somebody probably exercised or did something wacky here. Like whatever, it's over. I'm cooked, and I was fine with it. I was like, I'm gonna go make dinner. I didn't really care because this was Wednesday and like I had a fantastic day trading prop after having a quite rough Tuesday, and so then like that's when literally like we get off voice and it's like I just stepped away. I checked my phone and the freaking is like, bro. Yeah. I'm like typing all these O's like, bro. And anyways, the rest is history, right? Like price moves down, yada yada yada. I trim one, like pretty much right at the open. I had set an order. The order didn't fill. I had to move it down, and I was like chasing it down, just trying to get out. So I probably gave away like $50 a con. I should have just like market exited, but I was just like trying to move it down. And I thought we actually might reject just like off of VWAP and not go this high. And so I held on to the other one. Once we made a new low, I moved the stop down. I kept moving the stop down. And I feel like I don't remember the exact moment. I got stopped out somewhere in this general vicinity around VWAP. And I was a little bit, again, these were only going to expire at the end of the day Friday, right? And they were 475 puts. So I felt like, I was... And I know it was around 456 because I got stopped at around like $19. So I was in the money by a good bit. And then, obviously the rest is history. Like the market continued to move down. And if I would have held those, to the close, these were $52 in the money. Like when would anybody logically think I'm going to hold these 2 DTE puts because they're going to go from 1 out of the money to 52 in the money? Like, what?
Only the Wall Street bet crazies, bro.
For real, dude. For real. So, and it's always these types of trades too that if I was like, damn, just would have put in a little bit more, I would have made a shit ton. But that's not how it goes. Again, because because I didn't put in any, and I think this is my key takeaway lesson from this. I watched this other podcast where this guy was basically saying like he sizes to 0 on every trade, and so. His thought process there, especially when he's taking options trades, size into 0 is he's like, okay, well, I'm taking smaller size. I'm taking a size that I'm comfortable. And so I'm very, very aware of what my true risk is here because that's the whole amount I just threw into that trade. And he's like, and most of the time, if I even take the L, I'm getting out minus 70%, minus 60% or whatever. But the fact is, so like, it's easier for him because he's accepted a bigger loss. So he's like, if he puts, $2,000 into the trade, he's like, okay, I'm going to lose $2,000. But if he gets out for minus 75%, he lost 1,500, so he's still kind of like he's okay with it, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So I saw that podcast, and that's what made me think, like, well, okay, like, well, what would I be okay with losing here? Well, if I put in, if I bought these cons, I'd probably lose about 75%. Well, I'm okay if I lose 90 on these. Like, it's okay. Like, I'm just like, it's okay. And
Yeah, that's awesome.
dude, that was like one of the calmest like swing option trade, because normally I'm like every 5 minutes I'm like, oh, it moved up a tick, it moved down a tick, it moved up a tick. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
If you're
that's how I was feeling for you.
yeah, yeah, yep.
Yeah,
So
but you were cool as a cucumber when we were talking, so that was good on you for having those emotions under
yeah,
control.
yeah, for sure. Because Tuesday was exhausting, and then I have some other like videos. One change I made this week was I actually started recording myself and like the whole entire trading session, which has ended up with me with like these like multiple hour long like footage clips, and it's really hard to edit them. So I don't want to put the whole thing up. And there's a few times where like I flash personal information on the screen, so I can't just post the whole vid, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, um, that was really helpful because I was like talking to the camera, you know, I was able to like watch myself, able to like watch the trades back. So like I can watch the trade back and like watch the price, the same thing I was originally seeing. And then I could watch myself. And like I noticed the most bizarre things. I was in one trade, dude, and I like leaned in close. And I was just and I literally had like the most confused look on my face. Like while this trade was happening, I was like,
oh gosh.
So it's like pretty funny. And I got some good humor out of it. It was helpful, but I think it was really helpful in like slowing me down. And anyways, I'll like post some of those clips to my YouTube. There was one trade that I took on Friday, and I'll just like really quickly cover it because I know we have other stuff I want to talk about, but I swear it was like, as I was waiting for my take profit trader accounts, I was waiting for them. I was waiting for the money to be taken out from the prior day's payout, so I could, you know, take another trade. Because if you don't wait, it's the same thing on Top Step. Like if you don't wait and you trade and they haven't taken the money out and then take a loss, they can just basically deny the withdrawal, and then you're kind of stuck, right? So I want to make sure I'm getting paid. That's the whole point of the prop accounts. So I'd rather not trade them and get paid than risk is trying to make a little more and being greedy, right? But like I took a short, I swear it was either like right in here or right in here. Anyways, it was like super quick, and these candles don't look like much, but like this is, you know, this is a good 30-point drop, this little bit on a candle, right? And I'll release this trade video, and literally like I took 2 contracts. The first one filled at like 15 within 15 seconds. And I slept like shit on Thursday night. I felt really stressed out from the week. I was like very tired, knew I was slow, like knew my reaction times and everything were slow. And I was just literally like, okay, I watched it go to 30 points, right? And I had moved. I think it was like in a situation like right here where I got in at a good spot, and I'm sorry for everybody. I'm poorly prepared for this, but you know, I get the 15 points, which is like right here, you know, so I was in somewhere here. I get the 15 points. It starts moving down. I was like, okay, like I moved the take profit to a far point, like 50 points or whatever.
Yeah.
And like if it had knifed and I got 50, I was like, I mean, it's fucking awesome, right? $1,300.
Yep.
But then as soon as I saw it hit 30 points, I moved the stop down to 15, and it moved to like 40 points. And I was like, you know what? I'm more than happy taking this, right? And so like I moved it down, it snapped back up, it hit me for like, you know, whatever it was, 15, sorry, 15 on the first point. I think it was only like 17 because I was in the middle of moving it down. I just kept inching it down. And so I think it hit like 30, 35, it snapped back up and hit me, and I was just literally like, I'm done. Last trade for the week. I'm done. That's it. I'm stressed. I'm tired. I'm done. I didn't even care. It was a 30-second scalp.
Hey, you know, but you know, $300 in 30 seconds, man. What a time to be alive, right?
What a time. Yeah. What a time to be alive, dude. That's what happens too when the VIX is like 45. Pretty crazy.
But you know, recording yourself, more people should look into that, because it's a real eye opener. Because like, sure,
Mm.
If you're like writing in your Discord or note taking app or whatever, that's one thing. You're pasting your screenshots, but
Mhm.
like reliving that moment in real time, especially if you're recording yourself with a microphone to like capture that raw emotion about what you're thinking about, but also like maybe looking at where your eyes are shifting to, or like if your mouse
Mhm.
was hovering over like the flatten or the market buttons or whatever it is, like that's an emotion that you may not have captured by when you were in the moment and just pasting that in your other notes or whatever.
Right. Yep, for sure.
Yeah, so like, you know, hard drive space is pretty cheap, and it's not like you have to keep these trades forever, guys. So just maybe purge them on the weekends if you want after you've done your daily reviews and stuff. But like, I would highly recommend for anybody who hasn't yet tried recording their trades to give it a shot, because it'll be a um, different eye opening experience for you, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And even just like recording my pre-market prep, where I was talking about, just different tickers or different things, and then I would say like, okay, I'm looking for this or I'm looking for that, and then I didn't end up taking like any of those options trades, and then it's good for me to review like, okay, like, well, why didn't I take it? What was I doing? What did I see? Or did I get fixated on something else or whatever? Right. So overall, the process was definitely helpful.
Yeah. Um, I feel like it's been another recurring theme is like how crazy the market's been,
Yeah, it just made a new low, by
but
the way.
legitimately this week has been crazy,
Yeah.
and like legitimately crazy, because uh the VIX spiked like crazy. We're getting thousand. We got a 1,300 point move on Friday, but like uh 3 days back to back epic daily candles on NQ. So on the third, 967 points. The fourth, 563, and then on Friday, 1325. And then today we freaking gap down 380 points, and then at least when I took my notes, it was 930 from the previous session close anyway, not real time hours. But like, dude, it is moving.
Yeah. Yeah, I know
And
it really
so
is.
S&P is officially in bearish territory. It was lagging behind the Qs and Nasdaq. So we don't know when there's going to be a relief bounce. I kind of thought we might get one, but that's doesn't seem to be the case just yet. And
No.
I feel like obviously the fear and greed index is extremely low. I don't know if it's ever gone to like 1, but the last time I checked, it was like 4 earlier today. And
Is that what it's at, 4?
some
Yeah.
it was at 4, yeah. And so like some people are wondering if this is going to be a generational wealth opportunity for some people,
Mm-hmm.
being able to get in, for investing at really great lows. And maybe some of them are comparing it to like the housing crisis of 2007 and 8 and stuff, and possibly being able to buy their first home at a really great price too. And I don't know, because like the faster a move is, the faster the recovery can be sometimes. So considering we're making these epic moves over the course of like a week, I mean, it would be great to have another opportunity to buy a house at rock bottom prices, and invest long term equities, for the long term, retirement accounts, 401ks, hours, whatever, at these lows. But like, we never know when that bottom's going to come in,
Mm-hmm.
and so like, we all have to have our own strategy about when we start to either average in to position dollar cost average down, or up or whatever. But we're fixing to hit a key level on the NQs on the monthly. But
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to call a bottom. But I mean, if there was, it'd be a convenient place to have a bottom. And
Right here in
so
this
I don't
gap
know.
area, 16,000 area, the monthly
Yeah.
200.
hmm So we'll see. It could certainly go a heck of a lot lower. Some people that have done a lot more research than I seem to report that often it doesn't go beyond 25% before there's a relief bounce, and sometimes reversal, and then maybe even 35%. So I don't know what that's going to look like, but I'm ready to take advantage of it. And I just hope that for anybody that bought at the top, it wasn't like too devastating of a position or a portion of their position, because it's going to be one of those situations where like, gosh, I bought at the top and like it's coming back against me so far, and then once they talk themselves into it or out of it, they're
Mm-hmm.
going to sell, and then that's coincidentally that's going to be when there's some kind of relief rally.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily even the reversal, but then like they'll feel like they bought the top and they sold the bottom. You know what I mean?
For sure, dude. I mean, like basically opened right at 5,000 and knifed down under at 140 points. I mean, it's pretty crazy to think about it. Like, in terms of the ATR, my ATR indicator does the last 20 days, right? So, and I know some people use 14. I use 20 because that's a month's worth of trading days, right? So 20, 5 days a week, 4 weeks.
Yeah.
The ATR on ES is now up to 128 points. Today's ATR, this session's ATR is already at 175. Like,
yeah.
So these are very, very wide and fast moving candles, and it seems like, well, there's no one buying, right? Like, there's no bid.
Yeah, exactly.
I was also looking at the spread, like, and you can faintly see what the spread is up here, but this spread is 8 points right now on NQ. Like, what the? When is I seen that the spread as high as 15 points today? That's insane.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's really crazy time.
Yes, you don't want to be marketing when there's a 15-point spread. That's for damn sure.
Hell no. Hell no, dude.
Oh man.
You're
Yeah, I don't know
down.
how much further we're gonna go, because like, I've already seen some reports on X about lots of countries lining up to negotiate, either lowering tariffs or some even removing them altogether. But we don't know how long something like that would even take to affect the market. Like, we had announced that we're going to be doing tariffs, like 1 or 2 months ago. Maybe it was delayed once. I kind of forget already. So then, last week was D-Day, and then maybe some countries will want to come to the table. But, the date that they announce it to the date that they actually implement it, and then the date that it actually trickles down into our economy, those are all like unknowns. And it could be anywhere from, a couple of months to a few quarters, maybe. Who knows, right?
Right. Yeah, honestly, who knows? In the like, I guess the best thing that anybody can do in this situation is, size down appropriately, do your best to control risk, and stay very, very close to the news, right? Like, if you have like a news squawker or just something, stay close to it, stay very close to it. And if you're in any positions, stay very close to the news. But for like people, like, I know there's a lot of talk about like, like I saw somebody posting an RIP 401ks, and it's just like, I mean, yeah, they're getting beat up, dude, but like, it's not RIP. Like, that's not what a 401k is.
Exactly.
Like most 401ks, right? Like, if you're young, you have a more aggressive asset allocation, like by default, right? And that's unless you've gone in and like meddled with it. But like, if you don't touch it, if you just like sign up at work and you've joined your 401k, they're going to put you automatically into a fund based off of what your projected retirement year is, right? So, like, for example, I was talking to somebody about this. He's 30 and he's like in the 2060 fund, which is because he's 30. It's 2025. So in about 35 years or so, that's when he's going to retire, right? He'll be 65. Okay. And so that fund has more equities in it than it does maybe like bonds or whatever. But if you go on the website, and he uses Merrill Lynch, if you go there and you start looking at what all the other ones are, if somebody who's close to retirement, they're more heavily into bonds and things like that. Like, so I haven't talked to anybody directly, but like, this isn't the move that's going to cripple them or push their retirement date further out, because, well, anybody with logic would have been looking towards retirement saying like, okay, like, where am I at? Where are my assets? How risky is it? And is there potentially, like, logically, we should all be thinking like that. Like, is there potentially an incident that could occur that could then prolong the amount of time that I need to work? Because that's the whole point. You want to be able to retire.
Exactly.
So if you're in really volatile stocks, like if you're 60 years old and you're heavily invested in growth stocks like Tesla, like, well, that's risky. You could be working until you're 90.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and obviously that's no. I mean, maybe I don't know this, but like, I would hope that if somebody was trying to allocate most of their 401k into like those types of positions, that maybe somebody, because like you have to talk to people that you can't just like. Well, actually, maybe you can
You
fully
can,
control it yourself, but like some people need help doing that because they're not as savvy in the market. So like, I would hope for at least for those people.
yeah, you can
Oh,
change
like
it.
I okay.
You can
Well,
change like
like
your fund or whatever if you wanted to. You can go to a more aggressive fund or a less aggressive fund based off what your personal preferences are, and then you could, from what I saw, like looking at the Merrill Lynch site with him,
mhm,
you can select like instead of like a direct fund, you could go into like a Russell 1000 fund, which is like the top 1000 companies in the world.
mhm.
You could do different things, and it's like, well, he was like, well, what should I do? And I was like, bro, to be honest, this is like, I am not the guy to ask. I said, you should,
Yeah, well, I would hope that they'd
yeah,
have some guidance, because like, that'd be so awful if somebody made a mistake and just like
yeah.
kind of like, ooh, they were feeling the FOMO and like, yeah, let's get more aggressive, and then
Hmm.
suddenly like, oh my gosh, I just undid like 10 years of retirement or whatever.
Yeah,
That'd
yeah.
be awful.
I,
Hmm.
he said, like, when he asked me, I said, dude, I'm not the guy to ask. Like, I'm not a financial advisor. I don't know about half of these funds or what's in the half of them, dude. Like, I day trade, I scalp,
Right.
bro. This is like, I scalp. And then, like, what do? I just put my money into the 401k and I let somebody else's, like, plan take care of it, dude. Like, that's where I'm at, because it's the most logical thing to
Right.
do. I said, like, when it comes to my Roth, I buy individual names that I like or for whatever reason, and I look at that, and some are good, and some are okay, and some are bad, and shit happens.
But you're diversified, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and I'm not like, oh, I'll put 85% of my Roth portfolio into a growth stock or to a biotech
Yeah.
name that nobody knows. But
Hmm.
what I did say to him was like, well, like, are you maxing out the 401k? That's a great thing to do. Everybody should do
Yep.
that. Like if your job offers it, you should max out whatever they match, right? So
Hmm.
he's like, yeah, actually, so he said he wasn't, but he recently upped it to the match. I said, well, okay, well, that's good. That's a good
Oh,
change to
good.
make. And I said, well, how are you doing with that? Like versus your paycheck? Like, how are you doing? And he's like, well, I'm doing pretty good. I said, well, like the market, if the market, and I, haven't talked to him in the last like few days, right? Because he was worried about it when the market like kind of had pulled back down to here. Now we're down another 10%. So,
Yeah.
um, but I said, like, if you can handle it, it's a good time to just start buying more, right? Like if you can afford to invest more in your retirement now, you're just catching up for the years in your early 20s when you weren't. So like it's not going to hurt
Yeah.
you if you don't need the money now and you can live without it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
For everybody else though, we're just going to like long term, we're just going to end up slowly DCAing into like down here. And then,
Yep.
it'll do whatever it'll do. Too many people have this like obsession with catching the bottom though, bro. They want to catch that bottom. They want to catch it.
Yeah. And it feels good, man. But like, if you do, it's so lucky if there's no confirmation.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, you guys just wait for confirmation, please,
Mm-hmm.
please.
Please, please.
We were talking to a trader, or I was talking to a trader last week, and they were trying to catch a long trade,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't remember the day it was, but they were kind of just expecting price to work in their favor, and they didn't have confirmation on that trade. And if they just waited a few more minutes, they would have got that confirmation. Their entry would have been on the right side of the V, and it would have been a phenomenal winner for them. But
Mm-hmm.
like, they were predicting price and no confirmation. They had basically one edge, and sometimes sometimes one edge could work, but like we want at least two, right?
Oh yeah. I think the
The,
more
the more the
reasons.
merrier.
Yeah. Yep. For
Yeah,
sure.
sometimes you're looking at a chart and it's like screaming at you like, "Bro, take this trade."
Mm-hmm.
But like, unless it's like really screaming at you, then you have like you have your EMAs, VWAP, your supply and demand, whatever it is that you're drawing. Like, unless you have multiple things, uh, I don't. I'm so over catching the catching the knife, or,
Yeah.
or trying to catch the knife.
For sure, man. It's just not worth it long term, man. It's not going to be one of those things that is going to yield long term success, repeatable success. You know, but those
Hmm.
people who do, they usually end up with they have a confirmation, they have a reason to be trading long down there, right? And
Yeah.
that's not every knife can be caught. Some knives have to fall further. So
Yeah, and like Mabel always tells us, he'd rather pay more
more
for
for
quality.
more for quality. That's right. That's right. So that
Hmm.
quality comes in the sense of some confirmation. But bro, this thing moved down some more, dude. 16,460. So what's crazy is when Trump started talking,
Hmm.
it moved up to the 20K mark. It crested over 20K. This thing is
I
down
know.
3,500
Everybody was
points.
so excited too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, yes, back over 20K, baby.
Oh yeah.
But oh, that was short lived.
Very, very short lived. My God, dude. My God.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, we've been at it for almost 40 minutes, man. We want to wrap it up.
Yeah, sounds good. I always appreciate it, Joe. We're
Oh
having a
yeah.
good time,
Oh yeah, we
and
are.
I appreciate that we can just be open and honest about like what our struggles are, not
Yeah.
just with each other, but like with our small community that we got going here.
Yeah, for
And I
sure.
really do hope, like if anybody can just resonate or take anything away from this, like if it helped just even one person, man, it's all worth it, right?
For sure. That's right.
Yep.
Hell yeah. Well, good chat, dude. We'll thank you
Yep.
everybody for watching. We'll catch you all in the next one.
Sounds good. Peace.
See ya.